Good evening, Peace Collective. This is Candid Screen. I'm here with you for Cherishedflight Live. We're here on a special Friday Cherishedflight Live, and I'm so excited that I have been joined by my besties. And say hi, besties.
Hi.
Hello. I'm looking forward to this for such a long time. I'm just happy that we are all here together and that we get to share some great insight on sisterhood, on friendship, and affirming one another, and how we can be, how we can have these types of relationships. Friendships don't have to be toxic. And I know that for a fact because I have an amazing group of friends that you are looking at on this screen right now. So what I want to do before we jump into any kind of conversation, this whole idea came about in, was it April, when we saw the verses between the battle between Erykah Badu and Jill Scott. And I don't know if people viewing watched that night, but that was such an affirming space where two women who everybody was expecting to be battling, you know, with their music, came together and just poured love on one another. And I said, you know what, that just reminds me of my friendships and the sisterhood I have with my friends. And let's pull us all together and talk about that. So that's where the idea for this came from. And I'm just so happy that these ladies have agreed to join me tonight. And what I want to do is introduce my, I don't want to say panel, my panel of sisters. I'm going to introduce each of them, but I'm going to introduce them in the order that I met them. Okay, so it's going to show, I'm going to kind of reveal my age a little bit, but that's okay. First up is Paulette Payne. Paulette, raise your hand. Paulette is coming to us from Atlanta, Georgia. I met her 27 years ago. Can you believe that?
Candace, you weren't supposed to do the math, girl.
August 1993, I was lost at Payne College trying to find my way around. I was trying to register for classes, and this is before online registration. This is when you had to stand in line to register for all of your classes. I had no idea where I was going, and I think Paulette knew that, so she was like, you need some help? Get in this line. So she walked me through the registration process, and then afterwards she gave me her African American Studies book for Dr. Pollard's class, my favorite class. And I mean, she gave me the book. I didn't have to buy it, so that saved me a couple of nickels. And after that, we've been friends ever since then. Paulette is an amazing person. First of all, she's brilliant. When we were at Payne, she has a triple. She's a triple threat. English and comms major, education minor. What? I was like, wow. Now, Paulette, she's a communications guru, and she has her own, I don't know what, production company? What is it called?
Virtual talk show.
Virtual talk show. It's called Profiles with Paulette Payne. She actually, well, I think there's 2 sets that she's done, but she did a whole series on COVID and how it impacts us. And then she came back and did a whole series on race relations, and conversations around race. Those were powerful. Some of it was hard to watch and hard to hear, but she had those painful conversations. So through Profiles with Paulette Payne, and she's going to have a special announcement about that coming next week.
Yes.
Yes. So that's Paulette. Wave again, Paulette. Okay. Next up, Yvette. Wave Yvette. Yvette Blair Lavallee. All the way from Dallas, Texas. So I met Yvette on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. That's 2 HBCUs now. And Yvette we were at the Hurston Writers Week. Was that the name of it?
Yes.
I just call it Hurston Wright. Hurston Wright Writers Week. It was not easy getting into that summer program, but I met her there, and I was working on a project at the time that I never finished. And I asked her if I could interview her for the project. She said, sure. Conducted the interview outside in July. I don't know why.
I know.
It's outside. It was blazing hot. But anyway, Yvette went back to Dallas, and we just kept in contact. And then she got this amazing opportunity to be the PR director for the Smithsonian. Okay, I told y'all I got some brilliant friends. The Smithsonian, and you were there you were the PR director during the time when the Native American Museum opened, right?
Yes, I came up that weekend.
Yep. Okay, so that was like an amazing job. But now, Yvette is, and I gotta look at my notes because I gotta say this right. She is the pastor of First Christian Methodist Evangelistic Church, or FCMEC, in Dallas, Texas, right?
Yes.
Okay. And she's working on her doctorate. Now listen to this. Okay. Doctorate of Ministry in Land, Food, and Faith Formation at Memphis Theological Seminary. Her focus is the intersection and theological implications of food apartheid and displacement of Black, Brown, and Indigenous peoples. What?
Wow.
Brilliant.
That's a mouthful.
Okay, I told y'all my friends are the bomb. Okay, next. Keisha Brown. Say hi, Keisha.
Hey.
Okay, so Keisha, I used to sit behind Keisha at church when her son, who's now a high school graduate, was a little boy. Yeah. Okay, but I don't know if we didn't really know each other then, but I just knew I sat behind you. We worked together for how many years? 8?
A whole lot.
A whole lot of years. We worked together for a whole lot of years, but we would get in trouble because we spent a whole lot of time talking, crying together, praying for each other, laughing together. I mean, we really formed such an amazing bond together. She's the godmother of my daughter, and she's like my sister from another mother. So, and Keisha's the one who's like, look, who said what? Let me take these earrings off. Let me get this. Don't let it all fool you. She's definitely that one. But, we all go to battle for each other, period.
That's right.
So that's my sister from another mother, Keisha Brown. Okay, I'm stop doing this Oprah thing.
You got it. I like it. It works.
Okay, next, Corey A. Ramos. Wave.
Hey.
So, Corey Ramos, we met in 2012. Right. 2012. Was it 2000? Yes. And we worked together. Corey is Miss Baltimore. If you don't know, if people tell me they don't know Corey Ramos, I'm like, then you don't really know Baltimore.
Yeah.
So if you don't know Corey, then you don't know Baltimore at all. She is one of the most giving people that I know, most caring and community-driven people that I know. And she has a heart for people. One of the things that really struck me is how one year, my birthday, it was like you don't even know this, Corey. It was a really bad day. I was having a horrible day. Corey comes to the office with birthday cupcakes. I'm like, I cried when you left.
Cry baby. Cry baby.
Cried when she left because she just thought, she's very thoughtful. So I'm very, very blessed to know you and to call you friend and sister. Next up, Brandy. Say hi, Brandy.
Hi, everybody.
All right, so Brandy is like my little sister. I've known you 7 years. We met when I was working. We met through our jobs. But I knew that I needed to revamp my website and totally change the direction that Cherishedflight was going in. And so I prayed and I said, God, who can I call? Who can I ask? And your face came to mind. I was like, okay, let me send this email. She responded immediately and took Cherishedflight to a whole new visual level. Okay, but in that whole process, we became really good friends. And like I said, she's like my little sister, and she's probably Cherishedflight's auntie. Erica, don't worry. She's like Cherishedflight's auntie, and she is the founder of Mabane Design Studio, which was created to give the visual voice to traditionally underestimated people, ideas, and causes. Let me tell you something. She will take your idea and far exceed your expectations. So I love me some Brandy. And finally, and it is a little out of order, I have Erica St. Bernard. Say hi, Erica. Okay, and don't worry, because we all understand that you have how old is she?
You see me over here stressing out. You see me.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Breathing. No, she's 5. She's 5 and amazing.
Yes, see?
She is 5, yes.
Don't worry, even if she comes in the room, don't worry, it's fine.
Okay, thanks.
So I met Erica. Now, Erica, it has been 11 years since we met.
It's been 11 years. I was trying to do the math. It's been 11 years. Yeah.
Yep, 13 for Keisha and I, and 11 for you and I. And okay, so Erica is brilliant. She is the founder of Your Life's Well. She is a licensed clinical marriage and family therapist in Bowie, Maryland. And she's also an ordained minister. She's married to Russell St. Bernard, and he is just as awesome. So we all met, Keisha, Erica, and her husband and I, we all met in the same place. But Erica is just awesome. And I've watched you grow and blossom in this whole thing. And I'm just so very proud of you and what you are doing. So,
Thank you.
Okay, that took 13 minutes. All right, here we go. I'm elated that you all are here. All my sisters are here. So here we go. We're going to jump into our questions for tonight. So who should I start with? Keisha, what does being a good friend mean to you?
I would say that being a good friend is definitely having the ability to really just be unselfish. If I could bring a little bit of clarity to that definition, it's really just asking how your sister is doing and then being patient enough to wait for her response. It's having the ability to sense when something is not right with her, but being able to give her a space to walk that path without forcing your opinion in that moment.
Ooh, yeah.
It is simply the ability to see that her fence has been broken and still be able to admire the flowers that are in her garden.
You don't make us shout over here. Oh, no. You know, and I didn't say Keisha's a ordained minister as well, but go ahead.
So yeah, she coming in hot. She coming in hot.
Okay.
Come on, preach.
No. This is not that forum. I just really want, for women everywhere to really just be able to understand that sometimes, and you talk about it all the time, having to put on that mask, and hide behind everything that is going on. But if you cannot present, who you are and what's going on with you in that moment, and have your friends still be able to walk that path with you without forcing things on you, without the whole misunderstandings and it getting all into the dismantling of your trust and the walls go up. It's a lot that is involved when it comes to friendships.
Yeah.
But the final thing I would say is, Proverbs 27:9 simply says that a sweet friendship refreshes the soul. And so if for nothing more, your friendship should be refreshing to your sister.
Amen.
That's it. I know. Let's pass the collection plate.
I know.
Right.
I don't think we need anybody else to say anything about that one.
No,
Not that one. I think we can go to the next question.
Yeah, I'm going to the next one. Yes.
She wrapped it up.
Okay, so I know we've all been there when we've realized that, and what you were speaking about, which is giving that space. But when we realize that we're in a friendship that's not necessarily affirming. I can give an example. When in college, I was for the first time friends with a clique, and it was a huge group of girls. But then after a while, I started to realize this is not what I want for me. And I don't like how I feel certain times. And, you know, and then having to pull yourself out of that kind of friendship. Like, what do we do when we can't ignore that feeling anymore? When we know, you know what, it's time for me to pull back from this. How do we address that? Whoever wants to hop in. I'm not going to choose. Whoever wants to hop in on that.
So, you know, I'll start by saying this. You had a guest 2 weeks ago who likened the marriage relationship to the relationship to Christ. And I tell you, that just blew me away, because it's not only applicable to marriage, but it's applicable to every relationship that we have. Mm-hmm. And in that vein, you know, as Christians, as Christian women, we are connected first through Christ. And so our spirit recognizes each other through the Holy Spirit. And when we find ourselves in relationship with people and that spirit is broken, of course you can acknowledge it, you can discuss it with the person and whatnot, but you know the way spirit speaks to you. And if it's not being honored, in the sense that, you know, you and your friend or the group of people aren't seeing eye to eye anymore, no matter how much you try to reconcile, it's just time to sever those ties. And it's not that, you know, you're severing it because you wish harm or anything on the other person. It's just your spirit has to have the space enough to grow and be available to the next spirit that's meant for you to connect with. And it's hard. It's hard because you don't want to hurt feelings. You don't want to damage any semblance of any relationship that might be able to linger, but you just have to recognize spirit when he speaks, you know, and you have to honor that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I think the other piece to that, in addition to what Paulette has said, is acknowledging the pain of it, as you suggested, right? I think we tend to think that if I'm letting this go, that means that the friendship didn't have value. And I have to walk clients through processing that it is okay to say goodbye and we're finished, but also to remember all that this relationship brought to your life. To remember all the ways you grew and all the ways you were strengthened and all the ways you were challenged and all the belly laughs and all the tears you all cried together and all the fun times, but also to acknowledge that maybe it's time for us to go, right? So, you know, think about ships passing in the night. And it doesn't mean that we didn't enjoy the water together, but it means that we run our course. And so I think really what's helpful is to just, you know, give yourself permission, is what I talk to clients about all the time. Give yourself permission to release certain relationships, especially when you no longer feel like you can be your full, authentic self in those spaces. Because I don't believe God intends us to be in relationships that are stunting us or in some way not allowing us to be the fullness of who we are. And so we really have to assess, like, how do I feel when I'm with these people, with this person? And if we start to notice that I don't feel like me, or I don't feel right, or something feels off, then those are great indications that it may be time to say a prayer and ask God for clarity, journal about it. But then when you know, you know. And so then when you know, you got to do the hard thing, which is sometimes to say the goodbye. Sometimes to one, sometimes to many. And then as Sister Paulette said, trust that God will align you with more appropriate spirits for this season of your life.
See, I told y'all I got some smart friends.
That's good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, thankfully I haven't had that occur in my relationship. Mostly I'm had stable circles of friends. So I've never really had to release anyone or anything like that. But sometimes I have to step back from those relationships because they might not be going in the right direction, or that person might be going through something.
Yeah.
They're going through they're not themselves. So sometimes you assess and step back a little bit. And when we come back together, it might be a little different, or we have conversation and stuff like that. But yeah, thankfully, my relationships have been intact over time. But definitely, people, you just gotta meet people where they are. And, some people are going through things that we have no idea. And I'm not the one to cut people loose so easily,
That also lends itself to one of the questions that I had about holding space for your friends and knowing, and Keisha talked about this too, knowing your friends' ebbs and flows and being able to speak on or not, or when to move in to say, okay, what's going on, and when to step back to say, okay, I'm going to wait for you. And I know that can be a difficult thing, because you have to really know your friend and their nuances and how they interact. And if you're getting it, I'm fine, when to push in to say, okay, stop playing, you're not fine, and tell me what's going on, or to step back to say they're not ready for me to be Mama Candace. Just need me to step back and pray for them from afar. So I'm gonna ask Wavette, what are your thoughts on that kind of thing, holding space in that kind of way?
So I think when it comes to friendships, probably depending on how long you've been friends with a person, you've had a chance to establish like what the pattern is. If there are some things that sometimes it's just off, but it has nothing to do with the friendship between the two of you, I think you can recognize that. But I think also when you really know your friend, like y'all have been through seasons together. Yeah. And if you're not hearing from that person by text, by phone, if there's been a certain like pattern that you would hear from the person, say every week or every other week, and then suddenly you realize, hey, I haven't heard from her, I wonder what's happening. And you reach out and you don't hear anything back, then what I've done is there are times when maybe I've stepped over the boundaries just a little bit, to push a little bit to make sure that she's okay. And if she says, I'm okay, I just need time, I just need space, then I will pull back and say, okay, I'll give you that space. Know that I'm here for you, regardless to what's happening. I'm thinking about you, I'm praying for you. And when you are ready to re-emerge, I'm here.
Yeah, that's good. That's affirming.
That's good.
Candace, can I say something really quickly?
Sure.
When we were talking about, how when it's time, and certainly we don't just cut people off willy-nilly, but when that time does come, it doesn't mean that you stop praying for that person. It doesn't mean you stop uplifting them in your thoughts. I had a relationship and things happened, and unfortunately now we're not on speaking terms, but I pray for every time she crosses my mind. I pray for her, and I know that there's some challenges right now that she's experiencing, and I pray for her, because while we're not talking, communicating in the moment, the man above knows how to reach that heart. And so we don't stop praying for that individual.
Brandy, have any thoughts?
Yeah, well, my therapist loves to say that friendships or your ships, they're all the same, whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship, it takes a lot of time and invested energy. And so, for my friendships, a lot of my friends, we connect on a kind of vibrational energy. So I can actually sense when my friends aren't feeling well, whether it's, like you said, a change in, how they're texting, or if I haven't heard from them in a while. So I take it upon myself to learn my friends, in a way that or observe and learn, so that I can, you know, pick up on those things. And I'm an empathetic person. So, you know, I can sense those things, and I know when it's time to kind of connect again. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've experienced that with you, because one day I was having a rough day. You sent me a message and I was like, yeah, I'm good. And you're like, are you really good? I was like, I'll be all right. And then you're like, are you really all right?
I don't believe you.
Yeah. And sometimes I think it's really good to just keep, you know, ask and then back off. But I appreciate what each of you have shared with that, and holding space for your friends, and how it's almost like a dance, and knowing, because you don't want to offend, but then there are times when, in my head, I think it's like, we've all seen the Women of Brewster Place, right? All of us. And you know, when Oprah finally, she's like, look, I'm tired of you laying in the bed in the dark. We're going to have to rock you back to health. And sometimes I have that vision in my head where I'm like, come on, baby. It's time to get up. And sometimes you need that person to push you through whatever it is that you are experiencing, to help you, to revitalize you, to get you back to at least some sense of normalcy. But it just depends on the friend. It depends on the situation. It depends, and you have to be very, I think, mindful too of your friend and their temperament too, because some might not want that, but others might. So, and it's okay either way.
But like Brandy said, I could agree with that. Like sometimes I'd be like, your energy's not right. Like you sense, I'll be like, you could sense, if you're in tune with people, I'm just like, your energy, I feel your energy's not, in the right place, everything okay. But like Brandy said, if you're in tune with somebody, you could tell they're not their normal self. So you gingerly walk into that and get that information out of them. But it's like, your energy, I'm not feeling that energy today.
Yeah.
You good, right?
Yep.
We've had those moments.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's interesting. There's certain people, their text response, even through text, you can tell something is off. Like my sister will text me and she's like, "You good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." She's like, "No, you really good?" And I'm like, "How did you know?" Like all I said was I'm good. But the people who know really know. And so I think that is the other piece, as Sister Yvette mentioned, this notion of really being attuned and really learning each other and kind of walking through those seasons so that you can discern and be prayerful. As Sister Paulette said, I think each of us are hitting on the same points, that the time we invest in the relationship allows us to get to know the other person. And when we get to know a person, we know their rhythms, we know the dance, we know the music, and we know the way that things generally move. And we acknowledge that there's some ebbs and flows, some shifts, but by and large, there is a way that we are with each other. And when that way seems off, it's okay for us to check in on each other. That's how friendships are sustained over time, is that there's a checking in that happens. And it's not just a, "You good? Okay, you said you good, I'm gone." But like, "I'm not, for real, are you really good?"
Yeah.
And so then there's a shifting that happens, and a softening even, that even if they're not ready to, they might say, "Could you just pray for me?" Or, "I'm in a tough space," or, "I'll reach out soon," or something that again affirms and confirms for us that, yeah, I was on to something. Holy Spirit spoke to me, or I just sensed it in whatever way I did. Now I'm clear. And so these are the ways I can intend to show up for them, or just be present when they're ready.
I love it. I love it. So I was looking on Instagram one day, and you see some great quotes on there. And someone said, "Before you dump, ask your friend if they are in an emotional space to handle your crisis." And that made me sit back and think, like, there are times when something might happen at work and you start texting, and then you're like, wait a minute, are you available right now to take this on? Like, what does that quote say to you about your responsibility to make sure that your friend is okay first before you dump everything on them? Like, how do you navigate that?
If I can
Sure.
on that a little bit, I think, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, possibly. I'm by nature a pleaser, a people pleaser. I want people to be happy. I want them to be taken care of. You know, I just want what's best for people. And sometimes that means I don't honor Paulette and my voice and where I am in this space. And so I think when we have relationships, when, you know, the friend wants to unload, we have to honor where we are in the moment so that we can be truthful with them. Because if we just allow ourselves to be dumped on, then in the long run, that can be a very negative outcome, because you feel taken advantage of and not listened to or honored. And then the friend that's doing the dumping feels like, well, you said it was okay. So I think certainly you have to be honest with the friend, but you have to be honest with yourself to know that you are in a place to receive it. Because you always want to bring your best self to a relationship. You always want to bring someone talked about authenticity earlier. You want to bring your authentic self, your whole self to this union, because that's really what a friendship is. It's a union between two people who have committed to being there and to being a sounding board for one another, among other things. So I think it's really important not only to be honest with the friend and letting them know, you know, where you stand, but being honest with yourself to say, no, I can't do this right now because, you know, I have a million other things going on and I want to be present for you. We want to bring our whole selves to this conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also knowing and understanding your friend's ebbs and flows, but also your friend's schedule, period. So if your friend has a hectic schedule and then you're coming in, so say Keisha and Yvette and Erica, you have sermon writing days.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm mindful of, okay, these are their sermon writing days. I'm not going to come to them with, do you know what happened with these children today? You know, I'm not going to come because you don't have time for that, you know, in that moment. Or even with Brandy, when she's working on, you know, some of her graphic design work, or Paulette and Corey, when you're busy with what you're doing, you know, I have to be mindful of, let me just not bombard them with what I'm going through right now. And then when it's time, we talk about it, or maybe not. But I think that that's very important to
the other piece, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the other piece to that, though, as much as it is important for us to respect and honor each other's time and to be mindful of each other's schedules, I think the quote, at least what it speaks to me, is the importance of acknowledging that this is a friend I do trust and it holds sacred space for me, but that I need to check in with regard to timing, but also where they are personally and kind of professionally or wherever they may be. But I also think it gives us the opportunity to connect in an even more meaningful way, because it suggests that I need you to have some bandwidth for this conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we don't always, you know, and that's, I think, to Sister Paulette's point about feeling taken advantage of, right? If you're always the person who somebody's bringing a bag of bad goods to, it's like, sis, I mean, really, you look at the text and you're like, oh, it's her again. Or you see the phone ring and you're like, nope,
you don't
not
want to
available.
get to that point.
Right? So, no, you don't. And that's the thing, though. You find that if it's always the one-sided space, but I think the point of the quote in terms of what the things we said, too, is that relationships really are an opportunity for us to hold safe space for each other, but also acknowledge our own limitations. No one person can be everybody's always available, you know, reservoir for whatever's going on in their lives. And so I think it's important to check in with ourselves to see, like, really, where am I today? And sometimes I've had to do that, even as a clinician. I'm like, yeah, this is not a day to talk to anybody that I know requires a lot of energy. Because I got these clients to see and I have this 5-year-old and somebody's going to lose out. So I got to focus on these primary things and then I can get back to you tomorrow. And then I'll say to friends like, hey, I check in with you tomorrow. And they get that. They understand that, right? And so I think it's also about the more we get to know each other and learn each other's patterns and rhythms, the better able we are. But I do think still when we know our friend is in a space where maybe there's a sermon writing day or a high intensity time in terms of production, to also reach out in those moments too, to say, hey, I'm thinking of you. Like, I realize this is that time for you and you're on my mind. I have something I want to share with you. Let me know when you're available. So that it suggests that they're on your mind, not just because you want to dump, but because they're on your mind, because you know what their schedule is like, you know what this season is like. And I think that's a great way to honor friendship in both ways, not just because you're my dump person, but also because I value you and I know this season of your life is what it is.
Yeah.
I get friends to start with, do you have a moment? you know, they'll open up, are you available? I just need to vent. So, you know, they'll start off by asking, and then, you know, I think with me, I have like people that I'm in circles with that sometimes just feel like I'm not non-judgmental. Like I'll listen. When people feel they're in a safe place, I had that, Candace, remember I told you, random people calling like, I needed to vent in a safe place and I just needed to talk to you. So if you're that person, they feel like they could do that with you, then, you know, I'll sit there and listen for an hour, even though I'm here doing something else. I'm going to listen because you really must need someone to listen to you at this moment.
Yeah.
But, you know, you try to just be as open and make time for people because you never know what they're going through. And I don't want to miss that opportunity.
Yeah, that's, and that,
I think sometimes for me, I can, okay. I was just gonna say, I think sometimes I can tell for me just based on how the person generally reaches out to me. Like if it's through text message and then all of a sudden they call me, and I know that it must be something that's going on. And it's like when I pick up the phone and hear them on the other end, I'm like, okay, let me stop what I'm doing and get in a different headspace so that I can be able to respond to this person, because I know that it must be really important and they need me right now for this. But if it comes by text message, I think that you have a better way to manage it a little bit, to just reply back and say that now is not the best time for me, but I can give my full attention to it if you give me like a couple of hours, unless it's really important and you need me right now. Like I always make sure that I ask that because, you know, like the other sisters have said, I don't want it to be a situation where that person reached out to me and needed something in that moment, and then I just, you know, made myself unavailable. I always try to be available. And then from the flip side, I have, you know, some close friends that I can reach out to when I'm dealing with something. And I always say, is now a good time for you because I got something that I really need to talk about. And if they say no, now is not a good time, I'm not offended by any means, because I know it just literally means now is not a good time. And then I'll ask them, when is a good time for us to be able to talk about it? And, you know, usually we end up FaceTiming or something. So I think there's some healthy balance to it from either side.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And I love that, why that healthy balance, you know, to it, because a lot of times we struggle with knowing, wait a minute, do I go, you know, this way or that way? Because what we always have to remember is that their expectation is all wrapped up in this conversation. And their expectation is, you know, simply their ability to believe that you're going to be there for them in that moment, sometimes regardless of what you have going on. I mean, we know with church how that goes, you know, people and members, and their needs are emergencies, you know, to them. But being able to, you know, have that balance even for you, where when the phone rings, you carve a space after the sigh to say, okay, you know, I can do this. I'm going to take this call, but I'm going to spend X amount of time on the call because here is where I am. And I think in that balance, you not only, you know, do them a disservice, but yourself as well, when you're not, as Paulette said it, you know, beautifully, you know, taking that time to make sure that you're carving out the time for both. So take the call, but let them know, hey, sis, I'm here for you. I really want to, you know, hear everything that's going on. I've got about 20 minutes and, you know, we can work through this, blah, 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 and we can get it done, you know, and so it allows you time to still fulfill the expectation while maintaining that balance. So I thought that was excellent.
Candace, girl, I tell you, got some good friends.
I'm loving this conversation.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Even when talking about, this is all bringing about expectations, like Keisha just said. And what are the expectations that you have? You know, a lot of times we don't have that discussion. And even in with marriage, sometimes you don't have that discussion about what your expectations are for your friend. Like what am I expecting here out of this? And because you're just kind of rolling with it, and then your friendship blossoms, and then but you don't have that conversation. And then when you have to, I call that like the pruning of a friendship so that it can grow more abundantly. But when you're really honest with each other and you say, look, I don't have the bandwidth to do this right now, or here's a time when I can, or I really don't want to broach that discussion. You know, like having those hard conversations with your friend so that you can grow, so that your friendship can grow. Those are like the kind of difficult times. And I also think those are the things that actually build your friendship, when you can go through like a roadblock and come out on the other side, not only still friends, but stronger because of what you've gone through, to say, okay, like Yvette said, we've been through some seasons, you know, we've been through the loss of, you know, mourning the loss of a parent. We've been through relationship issues. We've been through, you know, people having children, children leaving, empty nesting. I mean, like all of those things are emotional things that are outside of our friendship, but that we walk with our friends through those things. And sometimes those things can actually become a roadblock for, you know, to keep you from growing as friends. And so I think expectations and laying out expectations is important in friendship. So, you know, okay, this is where I can go, or even like with circles of friends. Sometimes you have a friend the friend that you go out with, you know, the friend that you have coffee with. This is the friend you go to for encouragement. Like when we were in college, everybody said, if you want to feel better, go talk to Candace, because she'll encourage you.
Yes.
You know, if you want to go out and party, you go with such and such. You know, everybody kind of fulfills a different role, because we can't do all of that for our friends. And so understanding and knowing and having expectations of, okay, this is not the friend that I can talk to about this, but I can talk to this friend about it. You know, and knowing that and not pushing that other friend who's not the one to go to with that information. And so like one of the questions that I sent you all was, how do you balance your circles of friends? And I know this one is really a great one for Corey, because Corey has different circles of friends. And how do you balance yourself with all the circles of friends that you have?
Well, it's been like this for years. Even in high school, I got along with like everyone, but everybody didn't get along with each other.
Gotcha.
So, right, from high school on up, but like right now in my adult life, I just know, like, I have my college set of friends. I have work relationships. I have my sorors. And one thing that I'm very inclusive. I'm an only child, but one of my line sisters is like, you're not a regular only child, because I'm very inclusive of people. I want to bring everybody together, you know, no matter what. But I know there's times when I have, you know, times with my sorors, because that could be overwhelming for people when we all get together. But then when I have other things, I try to bring everybody in, my birthday party or a vision board party that we do all the time, or different activities. But I just know sometimes I'm like, those two groups might not, you know, not my, you know, different groups that I have of friends. I'm like, they might not mix. Well, that person might not mix with this group or what have you. But what I try to do is I try to make time for everyone. And my schedule used to be, it used to be crazier. It's not as bad now when I switch places of employment. I have more time now, so I try to make time for people, put people on my schedule, try to schedule different things with folks. But yeah, it could be, you don't want to, I personally don't ever want anyone to feel left out. You know, because you don't do it on purpose, but sometimes, you know, I try to make sure, plus I was in hospitality for a long time. So I'm just like, are you okay? Or do you know so-and-so? I might have introduced someone to someone 10 times because I want to make sure that everybody feels welcome. So
Yeah.
It's just trying to make yourself available for people.
Yeah. Corey's always a connector. She definitely
She
is.
seems to be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I said, she missed Baltimore for real.
And
Brandy,
Court,
what
I
about
admire that about you. This is my first time meeting you. You know, it's virtual and all, but this is my first time meeting you, and I can see that spirit of inclusivity. If I can be just a little transparent, growing up in the military, you always had to move, so you always had to make new friends. And at some point in my life, I can't really put my finger on it. I kind of got tired of that, you know, and so making friends became somewhat of a challenge. Not that I didn't have friends, but it just was a challenge because I always had to uproot, and I think there was this fear that, you know, if I get too close, I'm gonna have to leave again. So I can appreciate that spirit of inclusivity in these circles that you have. Now, what I can say is, it taught me to be not only a true friend, but being that type of friend that, you know, through thick and thin, no matter what, if you're still in this game, I'm gonna be in this game with you. And I don't mean to refer to friendship as a game, but, you know, if you're willing to continue, I'm willing to continue. And I may fall off, but, you know, let's come back, let's talk about it, let's do what we have to do to make the playing field level again. But I can appreciate that circle, those circles that you have, and your desire to include everyone so everyone feels welcome and part of that connection.
Brandy, how do you handle your circles?
Well, I'll say that in all transparency, I don't have a large group of friends. I have, my father always said, you know your friends, and not that you tier them, but like you said, Candace, you have a group of friends for this, you have a group of friends for that. And so I have my very, very close friends, you know, and it's not a whole lot of them. So, you know, I know them well enough to know who can mix with who. And that's just kind of how I handle it. And so I will say this also, ladies, I'm a listener. So I don't do a lot of talking, and I'm listening to all of you, and I'm learning so much from each of you. And so I really appreciate this conversation because a lot of my relationships are in transition. So I'm learning so much from all of you and how you've handled transitions, you know, in your relationships, your friendships. And I would say that that's one of my superpowers, is being able to listen to people and, you know, help them through and just be that kind of that listening ear. So yes, I am the friend that people call up and kind of vent to, but, you know, I'm learning. So if I'm a little too quiet, it's because I really do, you know, I'm taking everything in. If you see me, I'm like writing notes down over here. So this is very much a learning conversation for me.
Well, don't think that you're not being vocal enough, because you're adding some great insight to the conversation. And I one thing about you, Brandy, is presence, your presence. And I think you took our friendship to a whole new level. Last year I had surgery, and Brandy just showed up at the hospital. And I was like, wow. Okay. And you know, if your mama likes your friend, then that's pretty much, that seals the deal. And so she came to the hospital to visit me, and I was like, wow, that, you know, that takes things to a whole new, it's not just lip service, it's showing, you know. And I think that's what's so important about all of you on this Zoom with me tonight. Your presence has been, for me, just amazing, just an amazing thing. And even though Wyvette's in Dallas and Paulette's in Atlanta, you know, I still feel like you guys are right here with me in Baltimore. I mean, because, you know, texting, FaceTime, whatever, but presence is, I believe, very important in friendship. And I think that's what we've been talking about with making yourself available and listening, and but the ebbs and flows and understanding, hey, I can't talk right now, but I'm not mad at you because you can't talk. I understand. And it's okay. It's okay if you can't talk. You know, it's not going to be a big thing, a big blow up. And that comes with maturity too. And also understanding and knowing yourself and knowing your friend and knowing, okay, you know what? I didn't really need to bring that we didn't need to text about that. I can go and pray about that. And then when the friend comes back and says, what was going on? Never mind, God handled it. And then you're like, okay, go God, you get the little praise hands and the running
hands.
emojis.
Jesus.
Yes.
Or like the memes of the women shouting and everything.
Yes, the little ladies with the little red dress. I like to send her the little ladies with the red dress.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we all know that we don't need, there are just times when God will take over and handle it, and your friendship still moves on from there. So I appreciate.
And can I say one thing about the expectations in friendship?
Yes.
I think that is such a missed conversation for many of our relationships, because certainly, as we talked about, you mentioned, life transitions that are major.
Yeah.
And some of us want people to be present. Some people will be offended if you showed up at the hospital. Some people would be offended if you didn't send them an edible arrangement, or would be offended if you didn't. So, I think it's really asking the question, hey, we're in this. And I've even challenged clients, and I've myself have said to people, I value our relationship enough to have this hard conversation with you. And I use that language because I'm placing value on the relationship. I'm placing value on the relationship so that you understand that I'm not coming to you with this topic because I'm trying to poke or make things problematic, but I'm really seeking to grow with you. I'm really seeking to take this to another level, or to deepen things, or to, gain some substance with you. And so I think when we can approach the conversation from that vein, we can iron out what the expectations are. How do you want me to show up for you when this is happening? Are you the person who wants me to call you regularly to check in with you about this? Is texting okay for you? Would you like to do a Zoom call? Is FaceTime okay for you? I have one friend, we were together just last night. She is the pop on your phone FaceTime friend. Just random FaceTime call. just random. And I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know. My phone was, and I was like, this is a whole FaceTime. Like, should you text first? And she's like, hey, girl. I'm like, hey, how you doing? What we doing? But that's who she is. That is who she is. She will pop up. She will pop up in your FaceTimes. And so I've learned to be so appreciative of that, because she's the only friend of mine that does that. But that's the thing that she does. And so now I never feel bad just FaceTiming her like, hey, and she's like, hey, girl, I'm in the meeting. I'm gonna call you right back. Like, okay, fine. But the opportunity to have the conversation where we preface, I care about this relationship enough to test the waters, to push the envelope, to have this hard conversation so we can grow from it. And most people with a level of maturity and with, a value for friendship are able to have those conversations where you can iron things out, where you can say, hey, I was intending to show up for you in this way. Was that a miss? Or did I do something well? Like, how could I be a better friend, right? We talked about, in one of the questions, I think it was, listening to the Mary and Martha podcast, they are good friends of mine. With that, they do this whole conversation around friendship auditing. At seasons of our lives, it's time to prune. It's time to assess. Like, we've been together for this long, and is it still really serving both of us? Because if it's become one-sided, then we got to ask the question, like, what's going on in our lives that makes that okay or not okay? And then we just have those conversations again around expectations and say, hey, in this season, I need you to show up for me like this. If all you got for me is praise, that's exactly what I need. Thank you. And then for others, now I need you to come and sit beside me and hold my hand, because this is real tight. Or, I need you to show up with meals. I need you to, renew my Amazon Prime so I can get my stuff on time. Like, I need you to show up. But like, being really intentional and explicit about how we need our friends to show up for us, because they won't just know until we develop the rhythm, and until we've had the conversations, and until we've gotten really clear. Because I think sometimes that's the other thing. We expect people to just figure it out. And nobody can just figure it out.
You are dropping some gems.
That's good.
Yeah, we gotta let folks know.
That is. I think to what Erica was saying, a lot of times there's this unspoken expectation, and sometimes we expect our friends to be us. Like, we'll say, in the friendship, I do this, and so you expect in the friendship that the other person is going to do the same thing. And when in reality, that's not what happens. And so you end up with this sense of, I had this expectation that this was going to happen. She was going to show up in this way or respond in that way, and she didn't know. And so when you never talk about it, then you end up with this sense of having to ask yourself, did I make my intentions known, or did I say to the other person, what it was I anticipated? And just really quickly, I wanted to add something to what Brandy said. There was a key term that she used in there. She talked about friendships, like if it's a tiered level friendship. And I was thinking about how some friendships, there are deep friendships and then there are deeper friendships, right? And so sometimes in those deeper friendships, you have a different sense of how you show up for that person and the kinds of things that you share with that person than you would on maybe more just surface level friendships. And then I think within that, there's also associates, because sometimes we associate with people that in our minds, we might think these are friends, but they're really just associates. These are people that you just hang out with, and they're not necessarily friends. And I think sometimes we have to make sure that we understand and qualify friend versus associates.
That's good. Yeah.
And associates serve their purpose too. You know, I appreciate that, why that your associate serves their purpose, and that's okay. It's okay. You give thanks and you nourish that associate as needed.
Right.
But understand that there is a difference. I appreciate that point.
Yeah. Well, when Erica was saying, I value our relationship enough to have this conversation. And how do you want me to approach you, or to approach the conversation, or approach whatever the situation is? I mean, those are questions. I haven't even asked any of you that question. What I will be asking that question. But I mean, just so I know that I am approaching each of you in the way that is comfortable for you. And that's not, it's almost like the 5 love languages and how we operate within our own love language, but we're supposed to be loving or showing. Let me get this right. So with the 5 love languages, if I am acts of service and my husband is physical touch, but I'm doing acts of service, he's still not feeling loved. So it's the same thing with the friendship. What is the way that you're receiving my love for you as a friend? And am I showing that, and am I expressing it that way? Like, are you feeling it from me in that way? So, I mean, wow. Yeah. I'm taking these notes. I'm going to be asking y'all.
Erica, I really like what you said about, in this season, I need for you to show up for me like this, because we grow as people. You know, what I may have needed from you, or what I may have given you in our 20s might be different in our 30s, or as a mother, as a wife, or as a, someone who has lost a husband or lost a child, or, being able to just ask that question, I need you to show up for me like this. And a friend saying, okay, I will do that. That's really powerful. I really like that.
Yeah. I'm happy that's helpful. I think the other piece is to acknowledge, though, that that's a big ask, right? To be able to ask somebody or tell somebody, this is how I need you to show up for me. And then the pause, that's a pregnant pause, is like, so can you? Right? Yeah. But then not to hinge the ask or the question on maybe they can't, so I won't ask. Because I think sometimes we sell ourselves short. Like, we think they may let us down, or they may not be able to meet us in the area that we need them to, and so we don't ask.
And what do you do if they can't meet you?
I think then you have to have another real conversation. Like, I appreciate your honesty. I think we start there, because I would much rather you tell me you don't have the bandwidth or the capacity or the desire to be my ride or die, hold a sister down friend, than to tell me, yeah, sure, girl, I got you, and then you go missing. Because then that's a whole different set of conversations we gotta have after that, right? So it's acknowledging that, hey, this is what I need from you. Can you, and you might give somebody some time to think about that, right? Depending on what the demands are in this season. If you need them to prepare meals for you or something like that, that might be a tall order. And so we need to give some time for them to process if that's a real thing they can do. But then also to acknowledge and maybe even say to them, if this is not something you can do, know that I won't hold that against you. Again, because we preface this conversation with, I value our friendship enough to ask. I value our friendship enough to engage in this level of conversation, because you acknowledge that there's something that every relationship requires risk. And the more we acknowledge that, the more we can, kind of guard our hearts and be prayerful about, God, I'm about to have this conversation with so-and-so. Our relationship, our history, our issues, our challenges, all that. Can you help us both be in a space where we can be fully present for the conversation? And then prayerfully, if these are sister friends who you can pray with, before you engage in a conversation, you might say, hey, sis, let's pray before we start.
Wow.
And so then you're both in a very centered, very focused space, not coming from running appointments and like, hey girl, let's talk. Like that's a little different. But when we get together, hey girl, let's talk. Okay, let's pray first. That allows us to center ourselves and anchor ourselves in Christ in such a way that then I can hear what you're saying and I can also hear the things you haven't quite said. And then Holy Spirit can help us both to figure out where we jive and how we work forward together.
Beautiful.
Ooh,
Love it.
that's powerful.
Some snaps.
She needs a
love
collection
that.
plate too.
Yes, love it. That is so sobering. It really is. It's sobering because, Erica, you really put me in the space of realigning my thoughts when it comes to friendship. What I heard from you, just in addition to everything you mentioned, was that we have to remember that our friendships need maintenance. And so just because I met you, 12 years ago, it doesn't mean that our friendship is, where it was then. So we will maintain our cars. We'll take the car to go get fixed. We'll put gas in the car. We will do maintenance on the house because we're tired of the old gray paint. So we want yellow and we want it to be bright and fixed. But how many times do we really, delve inward and say, you know what? My friendships right now, could use some maintenance. Let me check in with them. Let me ask how they're doing. Let me find out how I need to show up for them in this particular season. So I appreciate just that realignment, that mental realignment that, maintenance isn't just for the temporal things. It's for the stuff that I value and that I want to last. And that certainly includes friendship. So thank you for that.
Yes, that's good stuff. Yes, the way you said that, sis. Yes, I like it. I like it. I like it. No, that was good. That was
I love y'all.
great. This is
Love.
great.
We love you.
We love you too.
We love
I
you.
love y'all. All of you have added so much great insight into this conversation. It's already 8 o'clock and I'm like, wow, we have, I feel like we've only touched the tip of the iceberg, but I think we have some things that we can walk away with, some gems and some tools that we can walk away with to really, like you said, perform a friendship audit, really figure out not only who should be still in our circle, but how are we, what's the impact that we are having on our friends? Is it all what we think it is? Like in the Mary and Martha podcast, which you mentioned, which is a great podcast, Mary and Martha podcast, go listen to it. They're doing a whole series right now on friendships, actually. And Erica has been a guest on the show, dropping some gems on there. But just that they asked the question, which is, what do you ask your friend what they need to do to be a better friend? But I think what we can ask ourselves, and this is not something you have to answer here, is what do you think you need to do to be a better friend? Like, what can I do to be a better friend to all of you and to all of my other friends? What is it that I need to do? What can I prune within myself? And that's with every relationship. How can I be better? And how can what I share be better? And is anything I'm doing toxic? I don't want to spread that. And when you really look and do your self-examination, what is it that you can do to improve, which then will improve your friendships. But this has been awesome. Really awesome. And I hope that the folks who are watching, the Peace Collective who are watching, really got something out of tonight. That you're taking these tools with you and that you're reassessing your friendships and reassessing yourself and your role in your friendships. And I just want each and every one of you to know, Corey and Brandy and Keisha and Erica and Paulette and Yvette, how much I appreciate each and every one of you for what you have poured into my life, for who you are, not just what you do and the amazing things you do, but the people you are, the compassion, the love that you've shown me, you've shown my family, your concern, all of that. Our sisterhood, it means so very much to me, and I just appreciate. I'm trying not to be emotional, like Corey said. I'm a crybaby,
That's okay.
I try not to get emotional, but I want
We
you
love
to
you.
know how I feel. I love you, each and every one of you, so very much.
Thank you for bringing us together.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank
it's
you.
great.
Yeah,
Love
this is
you.
great.
And that's the last point, I think, though, of the last point of the Sister Friends article that you said you shared with the
Yes.
panelists, or the women that are here to share this safe space, is this value of being grateful for the friendships we had, and to reach out to them and to say just that. And if tears stream down our face as we say, thank you for being a friend, right? Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your words of encouragement. Thank you for seeing me when I didn't see me yet. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for wiping my tears. Thank you for telling me my slit was showing. Thank you for getting the broccoli out of my teeth. Thank you for telling me I had lipstick on my teeth. Like, whatever it was that you did, the little things that I think we sometimes overlook because we're expecting friends to show up at the big times in our lives, but it is cumulative of the smaller times too that I think we can continue to be grateful for. And so, Candace, I thank you for, again, pulling this together, allowing each of us to share in this space together, to share with the people who are watching, but really to be reminded in our own hearts of the value of friendship, and the value of friendship specifically for Black women, because we know that that is such a very healing space for us.
Yes.
And if we're not intentional to build it, we won't have it, and that's not good. Like, I know I love me some husband. I'm so grateful for him, but there is nothing like time with a girlfriend.
Right.
Nothing like time with a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And so I'm super grateful that you shared this space with us. Thank you, and thank you.
That's perfect. So I want to thank my Peace Collective for watching tonight, and for joining us for Cherishedflight Live. The last Cherishedflight Live will be on Saturday, July 11th, and I will be talking to Nicole Nziba, who is the founder of the Caftan Cutie movement. It is a movement that started with 50 women back in April, and there are now 2,000 women who are a part of this movement. And it's all about removing the heaviness of the world to put on something light, to affirm one another, and just to enjoy or to find joy in the small things. So you have to join me on Facebook Live on Saturday, July 11th at 3 p.m. I hope the whole Caftan Cutie clan will be watching. I know they're going to be having a watch party inside of our group. So, ladies, if you want to join the Caftan Cuties, let me know, and I'll send you the invite. It's just a wonderful space. I started out with 0 caftans. I don't even want to tell you how many caftans I have. It's really a shame how many caftans I now have. But thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, everybody.
We didn't do our peace break. We didn't do our.
Right.
Thank you,
Wazette.
Right.
You got us straight.
Thank you.
Right.
All right, let's do our peace break. You're right. Thank you for reminding me. That's always reminded me to do virtual hugs. Let's do a virtual hug. Virtual hug, everybody.
Virtual hugs.
Okay, and yes, let's do our peace break. So sit back in your seat and close your eyes, and we are going to do our peace break together. Ready? And inhale peace, and exhale fear. Inhale peace, exhale stress. Inhale peace, exhale worry. Inhale peace, exhale everything else. Father, we thank you for this time together to talk about and discuss and delve deep into friendship. God, thank you for every single woman on this Zoom with me tonight and every woman watching. God, thank you for blessing us with friends who love and affirm us, God. Thank you for allowing us to be friends who love and affirm our friends. God, we just pray right now for your peace and your presence to continue to be with us, God. Thank you for allowing us to be the church outside of the church walls, being an encouragement to one another. In Jesus' name do we pray. Amen.
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 I will say, Erica, when you do your meditative prayers on the Mary and Martha podcast, oh my goodness, you go, I will send you all the links. It is amazing how she grounds you and settles your spirit in a meditative space. I was walking and listening. I had to stop walking and just really take it in. It's amazing. So keep doing that.
Bless you. I appreciate that.
It's powerful stuff, Erica.
Yes.
Awesome.
Bless you. Thank you. This was
It was great meeting everyone that I haven't met before.
We got to get together again. We got to do like another meetup.
Right.
That was
really
fun.
Absolutely.
And we gotta bring Wyva and Paula in virtually.
Do that. Do that.
Yes, we need to do that too. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yes. Okay, everybody. Until next time, may the peace of God settle into your spirit.
Good night, ladies.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.